All right, you guys, welcome back to a brand new episode. This episode is filmed the day of. It's going up at 7 o'clock tonight. It's currently 1 o'clock. I'm trying out a new format of just talking about sort of like just recent news that isn't really breaking, but still just a hot topic. Let me know if you guys want that or you just want the overall rants that talk about heaps of topics in Australia. I'm still just trying to figure out what you guys enjoy the most, but let's get into it. Today we've got a pretty jam-packed sort of episode. It's still unscripted, still just ranting, but I just want to go over a lot of topics. We're going to talk about Albanese's embarrassing and just like cringe-worthy gross interview, talking about how he would love to kiss Kylie Minogue because it's fucking ugh. Then I also want to talk about what's happening over in the UK with free speech. A lot of creators are wanting to move over to the US because they feel like it's an obvious infringement of free speech in their country and they feel like they're getting restricted in the UK. I also want to talk about China firing long-range ballistic missiles into international waters because that just touches a lot on our investigative series, and they did it last February. They're doing it again, so that's a topic I want to dive into. But welcome back to a new episode. Okay, so I'm sure all of you guys have probably seen this, probably suffered through the interview, or if you watch the whole podcast, I mean, accolades to you. I couldn't stand watching it all. I did a short form on it a few days ago, but let's just roll it back to see what we're dealing with here. Just in case you didn't suffer already, you're gonna suffer now. Let's roll it.
We're at rapid fire questions now. Every guest gets asked these. Shag, marry, date. Kylie Minogue, Nicole Kidman, or Rhonda Birchmore?
I've just got married. I'm only 6 months in.
But if it goes tits up, let's just pretend.
Oh, Kylie, clearly.
You'd marry Kylie and shag her and date her?
All of the above.
All right, it's a triple.
She's terrific.
Guys, that is our leader of Australia. This reminds me of what everyone used to play in high school, all right? Not the leader of our country, though. I don't think he should be playing it on a podcast. And this makes me so angry, all right? I literally was fuming about this because it's just so out of touch. And also something else to add here, like, does he think that that's going to be relatable for us to watch? Like, does he think that he's like sort of one of us by playing that game and talking about celebrities and stuff? It's so out of touch. And if he thinks that it is relatable, even more so out of touch. So we were watching Albanese sit there on a podcast talking about kissing Kylie Minogue when everyday Aussies, the majority of Australians, are dealing with grocery prices absolutely through the roof. If you go to the grocery store for a few things, it's guaranteed $100. You're dealing with the cost of living crisis. We're dealing with a housing shortage. We're dealing with government spending that is now exceeding over $1 trillion. We're dealing with what else? Cultural problems. We've got a huge mass immigration debate. Politically, we're in a bit of a turbulent sort of like zone at the moment, where I think, just in my opinion here, the majority of us actually do agree on similar things and quite a lot of the same things. You know, that's why One Nation is soaring at the moment. However, and this is a bit off topic, but I think what's being covered in the media, especially the MSM, is a lot of the more extreme side of the argument. You know, the supporters saying keep migrants in and Hanson out, that sort of thing. And I think the majority of people don't actually believe that, but that's what's being publicized and pushed in front of our face all the time, creating this sort of facade that we're all divided, when in reality, I think we're all pretty much on the same page, but they're just trying to make us more divided. But anyway, that was just off topic. Let's go back to Albanese. Now, this is just so embarrassing. Do you think you would really see like Putin do this, or like, I don't know, Xi Jinping do this? I don't think so. I don't think they would do it. And I know a lot of Australians are laid back. You know, that's what our culture is. That's what we like about our culture. However, I think we draw the line at the Prime Minister. I think we draw the line at the Prime Minister of our country doing this. And I saw a lot of people, which is quite interesting, who are on the right. A lot of people were like, oh, who cares? You know, it's just cancel culture at it again. And, you know, that's what cancel culture is. It's unfair for people and sort of that rhetoric. And I was just thinking, like, look, I know it's some form of cancel culture, but is it really? Oh, I don't know. Like, cancel. I'm not sure if it is cancel culture to begin with, but either way, no, this is unacceptable. And take a look at the response. Let's roll the tapes. Take a look at this.
Clearly, some people are offended by this. Should the Prime Minister nip it in the bud and apologise?
Well, I haven't listened to the whole of the podcast. I just heard that excerpt that you played then. But what I'd say on women's equality in this country is that no government's been better for it, and no Prime Minister's been better for it. We've actually got the lowest gender pay gap in history. We've got billions of dollars of more investment going into jobs like aged care and early childhood education and care. We've got paid parental leave for 6 months for the first time ever, paid at a higher rate with superannuation on top. We've got 56% of our caucus that are women. We've got a cabinet that's half female.
Guys, like, that's just what they do. That's what they always do. We made a short form about it the other day, just about this topic again, about their response. And the defense, a part of the defense of Albanese making an uncomfortable, and I would just say inappropriate comment about a woman is the part of the defense that 56% of their caucus is women. And carrying on that Labor's done such great things for equality for women in this country. If that was someone on the right who made those inappropriate comments, they would be done. Done. And I guarantee you that a lot of people, including myself, would probably call them out and say, you know what, that's kind of not cool. You shouldn't be doing that. But instead of Labor doing that, instead of Labor owning up to a mistake that they've done, they say their defense is that they've done great things for women instead. Wow. I think that's like, yeah, if you have to state a statistic about having the majority of women in your caucus, what are you trying to get at here? What are you getting at here? Because to me, in my opinion, kind of sounds like a bit of a DEI sort of virtue signaling statement to make. Like, it sounds like you're just using women for that little political tick, which I don't like. You shouldn't be doing that, because I believe in a meritocracy. I believe that men and women should be judged based on their ability and competence to complete a task. We have equality in Australia. We should be living in a meritocracy. And just adding back to this whole argument about that podcast, is this all a joke? Look at how these politicians, and I understand that some politicians are great, you know, you've got Pauline Hanson. However, the majority, I would say, are an absolute joke. Look at how they act in Parliament. They laugh at each other. They call each other names. They take the piss a lot of the times when we're just sitting there watching them talk about these topics, but then not even taking any sort of professionalism with it. And just being like, wow, for starters, we're paying you to be doing this shit, and you shouldn't be running around dancing like a lot of them have been on the left and on the right. You shouldn't be doing that in Parliament. You shouldn't be making little TikTok videos, especially when Australia is really not in a stable position right now. These people in Parliament should be the most professional, straight to the point people that we have, vocalising their opinions for their region, for their area, for their country. They shouldn't be joking around and dancing and calling each other's names. It's disgusting. And like I said, we're paying for that shit to happen, and then we're living in the reality, watching them dance in Parliament House. It's just a slap in the face to all of us. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's disgusting. Oh, I could rant about that for a long time, but now let's move on to China. Okay, so what is happening with China? Let's just play the news video so I don't need to explain it myself. Take a look at this.
Major escalation in tensions with Beijing this afternoon. China has test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile from a submarine in the Pacific. Jacqueline Robson is in Canberra for us. Jackie, the government was only warned of this a few hours ago.
Yes, Hugh, in the last hour, China has confirmed it launched this test ballistic missile with a dummy warhead into the Pacific. Australia only warned about it earlier today.
Okay, look, guys, so, I mean, there you have it. That's what's happened. And then you also have people in China coming out saying that this isn't a threat and this is just a training exercise. And look, you can get into that and read more into that. In my opinion, you know, it's obviously a threatening thing to do. Like, come on, they did it last February. This, to me, is, you know, very intimidating. It just shows how much more powerful China is. However, that's just in my opinion. But even just getting back to what we can see after the fact that unfolds afterwards is I want to play you this response from Richard Marles. Take a look at this.
Well, we are concerned about what China has done, and we've expressed that concern to China. I mean, this is a long-range missile test, which China itself has said would be nuclear capable. It's been launched from a submarine, which also implies something about the range that China is building in terms of deploying nuclear capabilities. And all of that is obviously destabilising to the region, and that's our concern here.
Are they sending a message to us after signing a deal with Fiji? Is that what it's about?
Look, to be honest, I doubt that.
At the end of the day, though, I mean, it just shows that we are powerless to stop whatever the PRC wants to do.
Well, I mean, firstly, it is important that we express our voice.
I mean, what is that? Okay, what is that? I'm sorry, but like Barnaby Joyce says, talking points. To me, that was a whole lot of nothing. What did we find out from that? Why is China doing this? There are so many questions. I've said it before. When Albanese does a press conference, every single time he leaves it and we're like, I just got 10 more questions to ask you, mate. Like, you didn't answer anything. And it was just the same with that video with Richard Marles. Like, I got 10 more questions to ask you, mate, about what this is about. However, this whole thing happened, you know, China's ballistic missiles happened after Albo signed some deal with Fiji. Guys, though, if we actually wanted to be sovereign, I can tell you right now that this is not how it would play out. If China did that to us, if we had our own defense capabilities on a larger scale, if we weren't so reliant on other countries, we would simply come out in an interview and say, China, like, that's an obviously a threatening thing to do. Don't do it again, otherwise we'll retaliate. Okay, they would have come out and said that if we were a sovereign country and if we had basically ground to stand on. However, no, we had that response from Richard Marles. I think it's an absolute joke. This is an absolute joke. China did it to us last February, and what we all need to come to the conclusion of is that obviously we're aligned with China for trade and we're aligned with the US for protection. Right? That's the state that Australia is in. I think that Australia is just a global factory. All right, and it's so fucking ironic, guys, because we're a country of abundance. I've said this so many fucking times. It's so annoying. We could be the most prosperous country on earth if we just utilize our resources. And also, just adding to this, supposedly China told us on the same day that they were going to launch these missiles. So there's your respect out the window, right? So I think this is just a big wake-up call or just a reinforcement sort of thing that we're not in a great position defense-wise here in Australia. Look, guys, that's the China topic. Let me know your comments in the comment section down below, because I know it's a really interesting conversation with our relationship with China and the US. The baseline to me is we just need to be a sovereign country. All right, we could be a top player globally. We're not, because we're not fucking sovereign. Okay, so that's the baseline for me. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you want a bit more of an expansion on the whole relationship with China, the US, Australia, we've done an investigative series. So all of the 4-part episodes are up right now. Go check it out if you're interested in that topic. And now, guys, I just want to move on to the UK. And I know we're playing a lot of videos in this episode, but I just got one more to show you guys. Take a look at this.
Slippery Starmer and Andy Burnham's corrupt Labour government is attempting to ban Outspoken.
The UK government is trying to essentially gain control of all of YouTube via the algorithm in order to make sure the information you can receive is heavily curated.
Independent geopolitics YouTube megastar Maya Tusi has publicly revealed his plans to broadcast out of Britain to stop his channel falling apart as a result of the deep state threat. Keep YouTube yours. Your channel, your say. YouTube is yours because you built it. View by view, subscriber by subscriber, on the merit of your ideas and your connection with your audience. However, proposed new rules could fundamentally change how your content is discovered, recommended, and viewed in the UK. The UK government is running a public consultation called Watch This Space, a new strategic direction for UK media. The proposals include mandatory changes to how content is delivered on YouTube. This could direct audiences away from your channel. As a UK creator, this directly impacts your future.
All right, look, there you have it. This is happening all throughout the West. This is just another thing for the UK. God, that country is in a bit of a state right now. We're not wanting to be in the UK right now, just with a lot of things are happening. Their country is very unstable. But let's get back to this whole restriction, social media, free speech. So you have a lot of creators in the UK wanting to move over to the USA because they feel like they're getting censored in the United Kingdom, okay? That's the baseline. And that is, in my opinion, obviously characteristics of an authoritarian regime, all right? Right there, characteristics, authoritarian regime. And right now, guys, in a free, Western, democratic country, the first thing that should be upheld is free speech. This is evidence that free speech is becoming more and more non-existent in the UK. Therefore, it begs the question, are you even living in a fully operating democracy anymore? If you cannot voice your opinion in any format, including social media, do you truly live in a democracy? Right, the US has the amendments. Australia needs the amendments. The UK needs the amendments. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, so you want the right to bear arms? Look, we can talk about that more. Very interesting topic. Let me know if you want a video on that. We can talk about that more. But the thing that we need to implement is free speech above anything else. Because without free speech, democracies cease to exist. And guys, it's really not hard to notice the patterns. And I'm sure you guys are noticing the patterns. Like what's happened here in Australia? We had hate speech laws. We have the under 16 social media bans. We have an increase in social media restrictions, as in increasing the fines for the companies because of the ban for under 16s. The UK was arresting up to 30 people per day under the hate speech laws. Now they're pushing for this to go through. Like the pattern is so easy to see. Also, for here in Australia, the ASIO Amendment Bill. Another one. The pattern is easy to identify. It's happening in majority of Western countries. There is a larger conversation to talk about that. You know, there's a larger argument to be had there. And also just going back to UK creators wanting to move to the US because they can't speak freely in their countries anymore. What are we trying to get at here? Like I just said, the pattern's easy to identify, but they're doing it very much in plain sight. We can see the moves that they're making. We can see that they're restricting people. We can see what's happening to creators in the UK. We can see the repercussions of all of that. And therefore they're moving to the United States. So look, there's a lot of shit that's happening in Western countries, and there's a larger conversation to talk about. All right, we can talk about a larger conversation about that, about the powers at play. But I think Australia is watching what the UK is going through right now, and it's just reinforcing to us that we need to make a change and make a change quickly. Because the UK, fuck's sake, their country is unrecognizable. And I've said it in my last video about the question of, you know, do you want to live in a Western country? And that's the baseline question. Another baseline question is, do you want to live in a democracy? Right? Because that's the scale of what we're talking about here. Another question, do you want to live in a capitalist society? Okay, those are the baseline questions right now. These aren't small changes that are happening in our countries. We've seen it with the recent federal budget. I think it's a destruction to capitalism. We've seen it with the response after Bondi, which is the destruction of free speech and disarming the community. So there's freedom of speech gone. There's democracy gone. And we've also seen it with mass immigration, the cultural debate. There's your, do you want to live in a Western country? These are the big questions that need to be answered right now from us, and then we can determine the direction that we are going to go into, instead of getting caught up in all of this back and forth debate of what the mainstream media is trying to push. Which brings me to the thing that's really harming us, is thinking that we're divided, because I don't think we are. I feel like the MSM is portraying that we are. And also, guys, just another point to add here. I just feel like here in Australia, we're going to have just sort of a difficult and hard couple of years in front of us. A lot of baseline things are changing, like we've just said. I mean, whether One Nation gets elected in 2028, that will change a lot of things, or what happens with the frustration of the people, because people are fucking frustrated. Okay, I'm just noticing what people are feeling like, and it's getting to that boiling over point for a lot of Australians. And I mean, you know, for decades in Australia, we didn't really need to speak up. And obviously, I haven't been alive for decades, but I'm just noticing, you know, what's happened before about stories and, you know, evidence and things. And I feel like we didn't really need to speak up about a lot of things, because they always just gave us like a little bit to hang on to. They always gave us, you know, you can have a house, you can raise a family, you can have a good job. But now those things that we used to hang on to are not there anymore. And that's the boiling over point. So look, guys, what are your thoughts on all of that? Let me know in the comments below. Everything that we've covered today about China's missile exercise, about the UK and freedom of speech, and of course about Albanese wanting to kiss Kylie Minogue. What are your thoughts on all of that? Also, please guys, let me know if you want these formatted videos of sort of breaking news or just hot topics at the moment, but still unscripted, or you just want a good overview rant of what's really happening. Or we could do something on Tuesday where it's a news one, on Thursday where it's overview rants, because you guys are watching this stuff. I love talking about everything. So whatever format you guys prefer, we'll keep doing it. And that's the end of this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, get into YouTube mode. But I'll see you guys all in my next one. Thanks, guys.